right, welcome back for another CBSI Hot 10 show. I will be rolling solo tonight as I film this from my beautiful room here in Baltimore as I am attending Baltimore Comic-Con, as we've been telling you guys for the last few weeks. If you guys are here in Baltimore, make sure you stop by and say hello. Table H28 is where you will find the Rennavision boys. And yeah, I know you want to hear about the list, and I'm going to get to it, like I said, but it's only going to be me tonight, so you're going to have to deal with that. Make sure you go over to check out comicbookinvest.com for the article where I might put a few extra details and notes that I might forget or miss as I'm doing this show by myself. But while you're at it, check out my channel. Make sure you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing it. And while you're at it, first-time users, if you guys haven't tried Whatnot before, use my code below for a free $15 to spend on whatever you want with whomever you want. No strings attached. It's just a free $15 to give it a try and nothing else needed further. And if you guys need supplies, your bags, boards, etc., use my link below. And you can also go over to BCW and use my code RENA10 for 10% off your entire order. That's 10% off. Just for stuff you're probably going to be buying anyway. Your bags, your boards, your short boxes. If you're into cards, you can get top loaders for cards, top loaders for comics. Any of your collectible needs, you can get a discount just by using my code right there. Now, with that all said, if you want to see this week's list, don't worry. I'm going to get right to it after this. It's going to be a little bit different this week, not only because I'm rolling solo, but I also want to do this one a little bit on the quicker side. So with that said, just hang out for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be back with this week's Hot 10.
Notable sales.
All right, so for our first book, we are going to do things a little bit differently this week. I'm not going to give you some interesting sale. I'm actually not doing an OLI this week either. So I'm kind of combining the two into one, and you're getting some books that just missed the list this week. So it's going to be a little bit different. And our first one is Venom #4. Still carrying on with all the null hoopla from last week. Venom #4 is kind of getting picked up within that groundswell with Venom 3 and seeing an increase in some sales. We had a decent number of sales. I want to say it was in around 40 to 50, and prices around $15 isn't far off from where it's been. So it just kind of felt like while volumes were up, it just didn't feel like it made the cut for this week when I was whittling down the list. So it's right here, kind of on the outside looking in, kind of a notable sale. My little hodgepodge mix-up mashup for this week. The other sale, or notable sales, I should say, for this week, are all of the Venom 3s. Yes, as I mentioned before, Venom 3 is still selling very well, and it was #1 last week because we saw Null in the trailer. I get it. Everyone's excited. I don't know how much Null we're actually going to get in the movie or where this is going to go from here, but Sony is not the most trustworthy producer of films, in my opinion. So until I see a little bit more, I'm reserving judgment, but people are still buying this. Over 200 sales is up from last week, but the prices are about the same, if not a little bit down. So while they're averaging around $150, now we're looking at more sales in the $100 to $120, $130 range. So prices are a little bit down as volumes are continuing to pick up. So again, I didn't feel it needed to be on the list again. So it's kind of on the outside looking in, even though that is a heck of a lot of volume for a book like that. But those are the notables for this week. So let me just get right to it with our next book, the first one on the list.
Number 10.
So with number 10, I am looking at a second print 1 in 25. I'm not a big fan of these, but this is a pretty fun Scotty Young cover. It looks a little naked without the trade dress at the top because it is a virgin. This is the What If Donald Duck Became Wolverine second print 1 in 25 incentive. Not a ton of volume on this thing. It's only about half a dozen sales, but that is still not bad for one of these books because lately we've only seen like 1 or 2 sales. So half a dozen already, considering I'm filming this Thursday night ahead of the con tomorrow. So that's not bad for just being out for a day. Averaging $50 on those sales as well isn't too shabby. So that's why it comes in right at the bottom of the list at number 10. So let's see what we got for you guys next.
Number 9.
Coming in next is another book that didn't have a ton of volume, but Here we are. Witchblade number 3, the 1 in 25 Mark Silvestri cover. I talked about this on the Wednesday watch list, and I still feel the same way about it. I'm just not a huge fan of them reusing and repurposing this same cover art that you could buy for much cheaper on the original Witchblade 170. But here we are, Witchblade number 3, the 1 in 25. It's still a cool cover. It's still a fun cover. There's still a lot of leftover excitement from the Wolverine homage that the homage to the Wolverine cover that was in the Deadpool 3 movie. I get it. So I can see why people want this, but half a dozen sales again isn't a ton of volume. I think there was like 7 or 8, and averaging over $50 isn't too bad. But once again, if you really like this cover, you can get this cover for much cheaper. Just go find a Witchblade 170 color or the black and white version. The color version is only like $20 you can find them for. So get that one for cheaper. But I'm not here to criticize. I'm here to report the volume and the hot books for this week. And this is a book that people have decided to throw some money at. So kudos to you if you picked this up, because I also got to imagine there aren't a ton of these out there, as Witchblade has been rebooted I don't know how many times already. And I don't think shops are ordering 25 copies these days, especially not by issue 3. But who knows? And with that, let's just keep this thing rolling.
Number 8.
So up next, it is not a new release. This is an older book back on the list again, because just yesterday, Agatha premiered on Disney+. I haven't had time to watch it just yet, so I'm looking forward to checking it out, and I'm looking forward to the series. I know not everybody is, but enough people are interested in Agatha once again based off of yesterday's premiere. So Fantastic Four, number 94. It's a Kirby classic. Stan Lee. I mean, what more can you say about this? But it's about another 20 sales, which doesn't seem like a ton. But last week there was only like 5. So quadrupling in volume is a notable thing to happen, especially when the show just premiered. It's just like they got reminded. The highest sale of the week was also kind of interesting because it's a 9.6 purple label, a restored 9.6. Got $560, which it's kind of interesting. I mean, you don't often see a lot of purple labels sell, but that was the highest sale for this book this week, which, like I said, was kind of interesting. So I decided to put that in there because the prices on this book are about the same, depending on the grade. It's kind of been where it's at, but again, it's the volume picking up based off of the premiere of the show. So with that, let's get to lucky number 7.
Number 7.
Coming in, Astonishing Tales 25. First appearance of Deathlock. Why is this here, you may ask? Well, we just got the 50th anniversary one-shot this week, so I think it reminded a lot of people about Deathlock, and they said, you know what? I want to go back and pick up that first appearance of this classic character. I mean, 50 years is a long time. And again, another book with about 20 sales, where last week there was only once again, 5 sales. So going up to 20 is a decent amount. Most of the sales were some mid-grade, like a mid-grade kind of fine area raws in that $50 kind of range. And then there were a bunch of slab sales. The ranges go from 7.5 all the way up to a 9.6. There was also a 9.6 signature series that sold for a whopping $750. So that was the highest sale for this book this week. But all kinds of graded sales in different grades also moved. So just kind of interesting to see that an anniversary one-shot kind of triggered some momentum here for this almost forgotten about character, but kind of ignored a little bit lately. So who knows what we'll see out of Deathlock coming soon. And with that, I think we should move on to our next book.
Number 6.
Coming in next, let's see what we got here. We have Revival, number 1. Tim Seeley was posting how exciting it was to see people working on something that he had written. And since then, we've also got a finalized cast. So this series is coming. And it just kind of reminded people once again that, yes, this was optioned long ago. They've seemed to be working on it for a while, but now things are actually moving, and we are going to be getting this. So Revival number 1, also with a pretty cool Jenny Frison cover. There are at least 2 other printings of this book and some other variants as well if you want to look for it. But the cover A, first print edition, 20 plus sales. It's averaging like $20 to $25. I saw one high sale for a little over $42. It's like $42.50 or $43. So that was the high sale for this week. We'll see what happens, and we've still got some time before it actually comes out. But I can appreciate the excitement for this thing, because a lot of times indies get optioned and then we never hear from them again. So it is actually good news that this is actually coming, and we will get a look at this. So yeah, so a nice little fun addition to kind of change things up this week. So all right, let's move on.
Number 5.
Coming in next at number 5, we have Ghost Rider 19. This is the new Champions variant cover. Why is this book selling? Well, it's because of the cover alone. This was one of those new Champions variant covers where they just kind of snuck in introducing a couple, over 20 new characters that Marvel had some intentions to do something with eventually. That time has finally come. So this is, I want to say it's Phantasma. I think that's how we say her name. And then she's on the cover of this one. We're getting to see her in a couple of things. Now, there's only been a dozen or so sales this week, but the prices have already jumped to $25 to $30. She seems to be the standout of this new group of characters right now, because we are getting a new Champion series. She's featured on the cover, so she will be in that title. But apart from that, she will also get a spotlight story in Robbie Reyes' Voices one-shot. That's also coming out in just like 2 weeks. So she's getting a lot more play than some of the other characters right now. So a lot more interest is being driven towards this book. Again, she's not on the guts of this book. She's just on the cover. But for many who believe a cover is enough for a first appearance, there you go. This is what you want to get. Otherwise, you got to go digging for a different book. With that said, let's move on to our next one, which is going to be our number 4.
Number 4.
All right, coming in at number 4, we have another Ghost Rider. Another Ghost Rider book, sort of. Yes, this is Incredible Hulk number 6, but the reason why people are buying it is because of the Ghost Rider here on the cover. This is the Ghost Rider from 1944, which we are getting a series. I forget what it's called. It's like the Hell Riders or something like that. So we are getting a series featuring these characters from the World War II era. Should be interesting. But this was the first appearance. And on the cover of the cover A is always nice as well. A little over 20 sales, averaging about $15. You could find a couple of sales in that cover range, kind of jumped up to 10 and about 15. So we'll see where the ceiling is on this one. But a lot of people are going back and digging for this book now that they know another series is coming, which is also a nice thing. I'm glad to see that all of these books aren't moving just because of movie news, option news. It's always nice to see when actual comic releases sell comic books. I don't know. It warms my heart to see that. So people getting excited for a new story to read, a new miniseries, or seeing a one-shot of a character like Deathlock coming back and reminding them of a character they may have been a big fan of and maybe always wanted that first appearance, and now they decided to go back and get it. I don't know. Like I said, warms the cockles of my heart to see it. And with that said, let's just get into our top 3.
Number 3.
So coming in at number 3, we have Spider-Woman number 7. Yeah, we've seen this book on here before. You remember when this was coming out, it was all for those new champions. Granted, they didn't call themselves the new champions. They appeared in this book and decided to call themselves the Assembly. What a terrible, terrible name. Thankfully, Marvel has scrapped that, and they're just going to go by new champions. Because if that new title was called the Assembly, I don't know what I would do. Granted, prices on this thing, they hit like $20 way back. Now we're only averaging about 10 again, but this had dipped all the way back down to like cover again. People have forgotten about these characters and just given up and not really worried about it too much, but volumes have picked up again with that announcement of that new Champion series. So 50 plus sales this week. Again, you have a few over $10, a few under $10, but this just hasn't seen a lot of movement for the last couple of months. Just based off of what they've been doing in the comics. So people are getting excited for this new storyline or this new series that's going to be coming out. And this is where you're going to get that first actual in-story appearance of a bunch of these characters. Once again, sort of. But with that said, you're not getting all of them is what I'm saying in that story. But with that said, let's get into our top 2.
Number 2.
So coming at number 2, yes, we still do have a Venom 3 to talk about. I know. Remember last week, we had 3 versions of this book up there. We had the cover A, we had the 1 in 25 incentive, and we had this third print variant, which is the first cover appearance, which a lot of people like to point out. I know my buddy Tover has been posting all kinds of different things out there, all these other books that people are trying to push as the first cover appearance. But it seems, for all intents and purposes, the third print was the first cover, if that is super duper important to you. It is to a lot of people because this is technically the first appearance. Yes, it's a third printing of it, so it's not actually the first, but he's on the cover. People like it. A lot of people like it, in fact, more so than they did last week. Last week, we had less than 20 sales, despite some high price sales. This week, we saw over 60 sales. And not only that, the prices not only haven't dipped, they've gone up a little bit. So raw high this week, $295, and the CGC 9.8 hit $435. Granted, it's not up a ton from last week, but all of the sales are pretty consistent. Like this 9.8s have all pretty much been in that $400 range all week. And the raws, again, been closing in on that $300 mark. So it's just a very expensive book at this point. And to see this kind of volume on a book that's this pricey is impressive, which is why this is the one I decided to put back on the list at number 2. Once again, all of the Venom 3s are selling. All the Null stuff is still moving pretty well, including that Guardians book with the first Clintar, even though, again, Tover pointed out another book we might have seen Clintar before. All of that stuff is still seeing a lot of volume, but this is the one that kind of stood out from the group as actually exceeding where it was last week. So that's why I decided to put it in at number 2. And with that, that just leaves us with one more book for this week.
And our number 1.
All right, for our number 1 book, I hemmed and hawed for a bit and decided that New Avengers 33, gorgeous Gabrielle Dubbalow cover here, earned the top spot. It was between this and that Venom 3 third print, just based on that increase in volume alone, but the price increase, even though it held steady, wasn't enough. Here, this just seemed to kind of come out of nowhere again. All of a sudden, we got another rush of 60-plus sales as people start looking towards Doomsday. Avengers Doomsday, and this book is kind of the unofficial start of Hickman's Secret Wars, and we know we are also getting Secret Wars. So once again, 60-plus sales, averaging $15 once again, reaching a high of $25. This is another book. It's come around that cycle before. It's come up, it's dipped back down, and gotten completely forgotten about. Last week there was only a handful of sales, and this week we've got 60-plus. So it's just a rush as people are starting to get excited for more MCU content coming their way soon. And Doom is at the forefront of that rush. So happy to see this book there. It's still a book you can go and dig for. So I'm here in Baltimore. Maybe I'll go and dig for this thing and see if I can go find it in a box tomorrow. I don't know. But that's what makes collecting comics fun. So hopefully you enjoyed this list. And sorry, we do not have a qualified for you tonight. I know. As you can see, I'm doing this show solo, and the boys will be joining me here in Charm City over the weekend. And by the time you guys see this, I think Bruce and Styx will have come down and met us, and Joe will be coming down on Saturday. But with that said, no qualified this week. Also, no OLI. But, I still got your Hot 10 out to you. So hopefully you didn't mind it just being me this week and me sitting in this, hotel room all by myself. But with that all said, don't worry, we'll be back to full strength next week to give you that full list and check out all the other content here on the channel. And with that, I'll see you guys all later. All right.